All set.
Thank you. Good morning. Call to order the meeting of the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Thursday, September 18th. And with us today are legislators Mike Lane and Randy Brown and myself. Are there any changes to the agenda? No changes. All right. We'll go to public comment. I've got 2 blue cards here. I don't know that I need to go through the rules for speaking under privilege of the floor, but just a reminder that we don't call out employees by name, and legislators, that's another case, but we grant 3 minutes. And first on here is Diana Cole. Did I pronounce it right this time? Okay.
Awesome. Good morning. It's a beautiful day. Wow. And you know, most of you have seen me before and how much I am concerned about keeping us beautiful here in Tompkins County. I did pass out a couple short pages about the metal contamination of the signs that we put into the ground. Obviously, you can look it up and see more about it, but that it is a valid concern. The other thing is that Nick and I have had some emails, conversation, and he plans to meet with me in the middle of October so that we can attend to this issue a little bit more when he has more time, which I'm pleased about. And I also have gotten a hold of Justin in Syracuse, who is a person involved with the traffic safety division. And he is very open and will get back to me at some point about Route 79 and 366. But I'm also, as you know, more concerned about Tompkins County, because Tompkins County is the one that has all these unbelievable repetitive signs, whereas those surrounding counties do not. So even when I drove in today on Brooktondale Road, there's 45-mile-per-hour signs, not even 100 feet apart. I mean, why is that? So I'm working on both of those avenues, and I just wanted to give you an update. And thank you for being open to this environmentally concerning thing. And also, I think, repeat what Nick said around them costing around $700 a piece, which concerns the taxpayer, not just the environment. So there's a lot of implications here. So I don't know if anybody has any more questions for me, but that's the update.
Diana, thank you for sharing the information with us. I will study that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks. We also have Amanda Kirschgessner, Town of Ulysses. Morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Lee. Good morning, Randy. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Corsa. Good morning, Deputy Attorney. No, not you?
Not me.
Not you. Okay, my bad. All right, this morning I'm here to talk about the Center of Government building. I guess everybody knows that's the bone that I have chosen to gnaw at these days. We absolutely cannot break ground before assessing what we actually have available as options. I'm really concerned because I tried to fill out this survey that is, I'm sure you spent a lot of money producing, and I can't even give the feedback to look at other options. I have to select a design that I would like in order to complete the survey. And the thing is, I don't like any of the 3 designs because in a county that prides itself on its greenness and sustainability, the fact that we're not exploring existing vacancies as potential opportunities for moving our county offices around, to me, is just kind of ridiculous. It's like, oh, let's build something new. Nobody wants to talk about that carbon footprint. And I was, I don't know, bored this morning, so I ran over to assessment because I was thinking about the Masonic Temple on Cuga Street. I mean, it's an eyesore because it's been sitting empty for so long. and it's only assessed at $500,000. Not that I think this would be the perfect outlet, but a member of the public spoke on Tuesday evening talking about the redesign of the old post office that the town of Ithaca did. And I'm like, what would it look like if the county re-envisioned the Masonic Temple, a historic building, or within the historic district, as part of their county offices? Maybe grandiose, but I know that there was some conversation about whether the county should own or rent their space, and I think that's an important conversation to have. Mr. Brown made really excellent points that when you rent, a landlord becomes responsible for a lot of the maintenance costs of a property, and I think that that's a really valuable perspective. But we also don't have to put all of the county offices in one place, and I think we can actually see if we look at the history of consolidating county offices, look at DSS. Putting probation and social services in the same building was a stupid idea. It causes a lot of harm because there are a lot of people there who are trying to work a program and just get free and clear of the legal system. But when that is coupled with a lot of the individuals struggling with mental health and receiving services, guess what? Just creates an unsavory environment, and nobody really enjoys it. And so consolidation isn't always your best bet. Decentralizing outside of the floodplain might be advisable, or at least worth exploring if we're talking about long run. And yeah, thank you for your time this morning, but please update the survey to allow people to respond without having to select a design or say none of the above or look at other options before breaking ground, because I get it, they're beautiful designs, but it's totally unnecessary at this point in time. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda, and I appreciate public comment and feedback, and I was glad that Chairman Klein did continue the Downtown Facilities Committee for another year, and I know that these concerns will be relayed as well to that group before it comes back to the body, but thank you. I don't have any more blue cards. The minutes for August 21st were circulated. I see a motion from Mike, a second from Randy. Any discussion? All in favor? Minutes carried. Chair's report. I don't have a great deal. I know the administrator is going to cover some topics this morning, and Mike Lane did comment extensively at Tuesday night's legislature meeting about the airport day, and I appreciated his recap of that. And it was a great event by all accounts I've heard, and I know I had some people from Groton in my district that took a trip over and were quite impressed with what they saw. I have heard back since you even spoke the other night, Mike, so. But thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, well, it was phenomenal.
You also have Roxanne on Zoom.
Hi, Roxanne.
Hi, yeah, I had nothing on the agenda because I wasn't sure if I would have the details from Airport Day yet. So I don't have anything on, but I can report quickly on it and then bounce off to give you guys time. If you want an update from me, I'm happy to do it.
Why don't you do that right now, as long as you're on there, Roxanne?
That would be great. So the event was a huge success. We actually beat a lot of the records. We had 398 people registered for the race and 348 people ran it. There were 46 units of blood that were collected, and 14 of those were first-time donors. 48 people attended the Citizens Preparedness Training. East Hill served 761 pancake breakfasts between 7 a.m. and 1. They operated 54 scenic flights, and 50 people participated in the paper airplane contest. We also, Taganic Aviation sponsored Whiskey 7 from the National Warplane Museum, so they covered the cost of bringing them here, and we flew 2 full flights on that. which was wonderful. So, and the event was just, I mean, of course, we had great weather, so I think that always helps. I'm not going to try to list all of the people that participated, but we had multiple county departments that were there. So it was wonderful, and it was great to see the community come out and the kids, you know, running around on the tarmac, laughing, having fun, people taking, you know, hot air balloon rides. So it was a great event, and I did see you there, Mike, but I think we must have been circling in different directions because I kept missing you. But thank you for coming.
I kept looking, I saw Josh, but I didn't happen to catch up with you.
Yep, I was, we actually had CNS come down. They set up a table to talk about the master plan. So it was really a great turnout, and I'm glad we've expanded this from just stuff at the airport. We're including multiple county departments and other people and other vendors and stuff within the community. So I think it's a great success.
That's great, Roxanne. Thanks for the details on that. And it's always good for the public to be able to see the investments that are being made in their infrastructure. We've got an appointment coming up, but is there anything else from the airport while we got you on there that you want to report on today?
There's not. So I will see you guys tonight for the budget presentation.
Looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you, guys.
We have an appointment to move forward to the legislature for the Air Service Board, and this is representing Ithaca College's position. Mark Eyerly has recently concluded his employment with IC and has resigned his seat, and recommendation is for Lane Norton, Vice President of Advancement, to serve as Ithaca College's institutional representative to the Air Services Board. And this would be under ID number 13563. And do we have a motion? Mike, second by Randy. Discussion. No reason to go into executive session on the appointment. All in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Corsa, welcome back, and thanks for being with us this morning. And what good news have you got for us today?
Yeah, thank you. First thing is we have a resolution on the table. So if you move the resolution, then we can speak to it if need be.
Randy is moving resolution under 7A, authorization of parking lot lease agreement with WT and CE Pritchard, ID number 13553. And I see a second from Mike. Thanks. And would you like to brief us on that?
Yes, I believe a couple of months ago, you authorized us to be able to add additional parking lot because during the construction of the central government, we will lose some few existing parking spaces. So we initially tried to get an agreement with the city in terms of the parking lot at the Cayuga Street. Unfortunately, we couldn't use that facility because it had to be specific, allocated to specific staff, which we couldn't do that. So we identified this space, which provided an opportunity to add additional 64 parking lots to the number of spaces that we have, which every employee from every department will be able to park at that space and also be available to all our staff. So we're excited about this opportunity to add this additional lot. And that's the resolution.
Thank you, Corsa, for that summary. And questions from committee? Mike?
Not necessarily questions, but I want to say thanks. You know, we have employees from all over the region. Many folks would perhaps like to live in the city of Ithaca but can't afford it. And so they live in further out areas where they can afford houses, for example, and they want to have single family houses. They drive. we can't expect all of our employees to get on buses and be able to come down. We should encourage that, and we like to have people take the buses, but reality is people drive their vehicles to work. And I like us being able to understand that and accommodate it to the extent we can. It's why we looked at the Tioga Street lot when we bought that. And now, you know, we've playing musical chairs with departments for a while. We got to have some parking in the area of the mental health building. So I'm very pleased to hear that you were able to negotiate something in that area.
Thank you.
Randy.
Thank you. Boy, a lot of power here today. Well, you have three votes, huh? Right? Right?
That's right. So, that's what I just said. Hope I'm not cranky.
Or me, right? So I do have a few questions. So we approved $50,000, and this is going to be $54,000. So there'll be another budget thing coming forward. I thought we approved up to $50,000.
Just to clarify, I believe the $50,000 based on our analysis of the Cayuga space was going to be what we will need for the rest of the year. This is a significant savings from that. So we're not going to ask for more. We're actually going to give back some of those $50,000.
And then next year you have to increase the budget a little bit?
Yeah, so you're looking at 45, you're looking at, yeah, so the actual annual cost was around about 100 and change. So it's going to be a lower amount. So we factored in already the lease cost into our 2026 budget.
Okay, and 65 lots. So do we have to do any work there to create those 65 lots?
There will be striping on the space. It's currently there's no markings yet, so we're working with facilities and also highway to assist us in those stripings. Yes.
Yeah, the lot looks pretty empty right now.
Yes.
Is this going to provide parking for more employees that are not receiving parking now?
Yes.
Okay, so is this creating a benefit?
Presumably.
Absolutely.
So it is creating a benefit. Sometimes in human resource understanding, benefit is something different. So it's allowing additional employees that did not have a privilege of parking spaces to be able to park in those places.
I understand that, but we
come
to this solution many times.
Absolutely.
Yes. And once we begin providing parking, it's going to be considered, the way I understand it, as I'm not sure the right terminology, but it's going to be a benefit.
It is, yes.
Okay, so this expense is going to continue for ever, or as long as I'm here anyways.
Yeah, chiming.
Okay,
yes,
so what we're trying to do is get ahead of the fact that we will not have parking as these buildings are being deconstructed. So really, it's almost a replacement of what we believe we're going to lose as the deconstruction is taking place at the buildings, because right now folks can park at the Key Bank. That won't be available anymore. So as and professional building, as that's coming down, those areas are no longer going to be available. And I will say too that we're working with Human Resources to actually look at the entire plan for how we allocate parking presently, because we have passes that some people can park in this parking lot, some can park in that parking lot. So we're looking at it holistically through this process to see how we can better allocate those parking spaces for all of the downtown employees, not just some of the downtown employees, because that has been the way this process has gone.
I understand that. But also we purchased the property down here on Tioga Street, which is brand new parking, right, for us. That wasn't the original plan, but that's what it's going to be. It's going to be parking for the foreseeable future. And that's going to be 54 spots, I think is the number I remember. But so that is new parking available that it's going to be long-term. We paid well over $1 million for that. Right. So and I'm not sure the final number and how that all balanced out once it was all said and done, probably more than that. So I'm going to vote for this. I'm just saying this is real about what this is.
And
I mean, where it's going to continue to be an expense, and it.
this is a year-to-year lease too also, Randy. So we may not have it next year.
I understand.
Okay.
And once the Center of Government building is built, assuming it's going to be built, how many parking spaces are we going to actually lose when that's all said and done?
Right.
I don't know if we know that yet, but I would like to know that. So.
Further discussion? So noted. And I would expect downtown facilities will be having this parking conversation as well as those plans develop. But if in my mind, obviously, if those offices at 201 East Green Street are moving back over here eventually, then that lot will be a temporary solution, and we'll be looking at something more permanent in this area if it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, I had a meeting. I went to the library, and I parked in the parking ramp where Cultivare was, and the top 3 floors were empty of that parking ramp. I thought that was, and it was at noon, so it was interesting.
Thanks. Anything further? Norma?
I just wanted to add, so to that point, Randy, those parking spots, if we were to allocate those, as Corsa said, those are individually, so only one, I'm the only one who can park in that lot if I'm the one who has the parking permit. It's not a first come, first served. That then becomes a benefit that is then actually a true benefit through HR, through finance, and so on. So I just to kind of add to that conversation.
And the machine was busted to pay, too.
You got a bargain for the day. If nothing further, are we ready to vote? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Lee, may I mention something else? I didn't want to do it while we were talking about the resolution, but I've been having some feedback from employees and other folks about the conditions over in that area, lack of cleanliness in the walkways, in the elevators of the Green Street ramp and the Green Street ramp itself. I wonder if we've had any dialogue with the city about that. I mean, I've heard even things that people have told me that not only are there animal feces around, but there's people feces around. And we need to have a clean area for people to be able to walk to get to their building from their automobile parking. And I think, to me, it's something the city should be taking care of.
Thanks for mentioning that, Mike. Let's move on. We'll have a discussion regarding the 5-year capital plan update, and Aurel is with us this morning. Katie, anybody come on up? And I did talk a little bit ahead of Norma and prepped her, and not only will we hear a bit about the projects themselves, but asked for a little bit of projection as to where we may be going with the capital costs as we implement parts of the program. Good morning, Aurel.
Good morning. Hi. Yeah. Okay. Good morning. Before getting into that, I wanted to introduce a new deputy to our department, Livin Babu. He's coming from SUNY Broome. Has been there 3 years. And during the interview, actually during the initial screening, when I talked to him over the phone, gosh, almost a month ago, he had worked in the Middle East and Saudi Arabia 32 years after I had worked there. I had worked there as a graduate engineer, preparing the Jubail Industrial Complex, doing geotechnical studies there for an Egyptian engineering firm. And then 34 or so years later, he was working there for 2 years, which I thought was very coincidental. He's been with us since Monday, and he's returned every day since. And we've had a lot going on. And just to note, my mother-in-law passed away, so I was supposed to be bereavement, but because we've got a new employee, I've been spending quite a bit of time so far this week. Actually worked until 4:30 this morning, modifying this presentation significantly, because the spreadsheet that I'll share with you is really a working spreadsheet, not really something that's easy to present, so I had to reformat it to make it easier to present to this group. So I'd like to start.
Could I ask name again?
Libin.
Libin?
Libin Babu.
Thanks, Libin. And welcome. Glad to have you with us here. And Arel can use the help.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he has significantly so far. His background, he's a mechanical engineer and also has a business degree. I'm a civil structural engineer, so I think it's a great balance in our department. So I will start.
Thank you.
When I presented the capital projects for facilities, it's been a couple of weeks ago, there were several questions about really how we plan our capital projects under this facilities restoration project that was set up many years ago, where rather than each year having to submit capital projects as part of our operating budget, that money be set aside in the capital that we could basically use that to do our projects. Capital is nice in the sense that the funding rolls over, whereas on the operating side at the end of the year, if it's not used, basically you don't have access to those funds. We started many years ago, probably 15 years ago, with about $800,000 a year, but it was 3 years, $800,000 a year, and then there was a 2-year pause, and then $800,000. We had so much deferred maintenance that there was just no way to catch up that way, and that was one of the reasons for setting up that facilities restoration capital program. And then it turned to $1.4 million, same 3 years and a 2-year pause, and it's been $1.4 million for the past probably 8 or so years. However, the last 2 years, it's been cut by 50%. So this year we have $700,000. The current proposed recommendation is $700,000, and I think at that capital presentation, somebody asked, well, how much do you need? I said, I need a lot more than that. So the purpose of this meeting is really to share what projects we should be taking care of to maintain the assets that we have. The buildings are the largest assets we have, aside from the human assets that we have for the county. So I'll start with the first one.
According to Maury, it's not.
Okay, so it's the facilities restoration projects, and it's called that. We didn't come up with that, but back when we initiated this capital program, the bond attorney said that you don't want to say maintenance, you call it restoration. So when they go out to bonding, they don't like to see the word maintenance, so it's restoration. And that's the reason for the name. So one of the projects, which actually the day that I presented my capital program, during the break after I presented it, it was raining. We'd had a brief thunderstorm, and a few folks had stepped out, and there was water dripping in the stairwell here, the north stairwell. So it turns out that the roof, it's a standing seam roof. It's 50 years old. We've recoated it twice since I've been here, but it's to the point when we actually did a preliminary assessment that it's pitting in many areas, and it really should be replaced. So it turned from a recoating project to now a roof replacement project. We've already approached an engineering firm to do an assessment to determine the extent of the work that we'll need to do, including the facade. We have some cracking just along this, close to the North Tower here, and we want to monitor that. So that's one project. The other one in this building is...
Before you leave that, Earl, just out of curiosity, I keep eyeballing from here that wall up here behind us, and have seen that start to chip away. Is that
right.
related?
Yes.
As well with the leaks
yes.
from the roof?
Yeah, so we looked at it about a month ago. We got a lift, went up there, and our carpenter was looking at the trim, that's the kind of the fascia, and so the water has got into that, and so we're going to have to replace that. But we were thinking the water was on the gutters and downspouts was just overflowing when we had a lot of rain, and we were thinking, or I was thinking it was plugged and the water was just flowing up and over, but it's not. It's coming from the roof portion and then getting into the building. So that's why we have to address the entire roof, the gutters and the downspouts, as well as the wood trim along the top of the building.
How old is this building? Mike probably.
1876, is it? Or?
I was thinking a little bit earlier than that, more like the 1850s, but I'm not positive.
There's a plaque down there, and I always walk past it.
But it's
old.
It's 150, circa. Yeah. Wow. Thanks.
Yeah.
Aurel, are you going to have associated costs with these things, or is this more of a...
No, yeah, no, the next...
Just want to make sure.
There's a spreadsheet. This is just giving a view of the large projects that, and we can't afford doing all of this with $700,000. I'm just letting you know things that are on that plan based on just the service and design life of these systems. So,
can I ask questions as we go that way?
Oh, sure.
Because you get a lot of buildings, right?
Yeah.
So when do you think this roof should be done? In the next 2 years?
No,
this year?
next year.
Next year. Okay.
We're already starting the assessment. We're planning next week. Now that Livin is here, we're arranging that assessment to start hopefully next week, and then we can get an idea the scope and extent of the work that we'll need to do for next year.
Are we not allowed to work with Amish people? I have a friend of mine had a big metal roof put on, and I was surprised at the cost of it and how quickly they did it. And the quality looks pretty good. They did fascia, they did all sorts of things. So is it an insurance requirement? I mean, how is that?
If they have the insurance, then yes, they can do work for the county.
Okay, all right, just curious. Thanks.
That's always a challenge for most small business is the insurance requirements to do these projects, especially if it's a roof project.
Right, yeah, that's one of the riskiest jobs there is, right?
Exactly, and especially this one. I mean, it's a steep pitch on the roof. It's not a flat roof. The other one would be the elevator modernization. About 4 years ago, we did modernization on our larger buildings, and so we did the Human Services building, we did the old jail, we did the main courthouse, and we did the whole house on Green Street. And the two that we didn't do, and that was cost at the time, it was this building. And so this elevator is 38 years old. Anytime we touch it, if we do an improvement, we have to then bring it up to code. Most of those code requirements are ADA. So this one doesn't tell you what floor you're on. The buildings that I mentioned before, it'll tell you what floor you're on. So you have the audio and then also the braille, but also we look at the machine room for the equipment for these elevators. So it would include this building. This was done in '97. Lee, you were probably here at the time, I don't know, back when they did that. The other project is the main courthouse. It's the door replacements. Those doors are original to the main courthouse. They are, the front doors, which are this one here on the left, they weigh about 600 pounds. And I mean, they're really neat. We have the drawings. We have the original blueprint drawings for the entire building, which are great. But they even have all the details. The operators, they're actually on the bottom. And it's basically a pivot. Rixon makes them, and it's it's getting harder and harder to find replacement parts, but those doors have to be perfectly balanced. If they're balanced, then they're not as difficult to open. They're very easy. But you may have noticed, if you've ever gone through the front door the last year or so, they're propped open because basically they're too hard to open. And so we have the parts for some of it, but we have to remove the doors, and then we have to get the model numbers on the operators and see if we can still get them. I've talked for some years just to replace them, and they're very expensive, and there are companies that can replace it to look exactly like that, but they're not as expensive. So that's one project that we'd like to do, is replacing the doors. And so we have 4 doors. We have the front, which are the doubles that you see on the left. This is the employee entrance door on the west side of the building. And then the ones on the left and right, there's the accessible entrance on the ramp on the south. And this one, very few people know, this is a door that comes out of county clerk. It's only an exit, fire exit. It's not one that's used to enter the building. So all those 4 doors would be replaced. Then Human Services Building, it's the resurfacing that parking lot. The Seneca Street parking lot, the larger one that's open to the public, is the one that's in worse shape. And then this is another view of that. They also have parking in the back for their service vehicles. So we would do both the Seneca lot, the State Street, which is this one on the lower left, and then the back service access lot. And that's 28 years old. This one I hear about all the time is the public library. If you're at the light on Ithaca Street to turn on green, you're sitting there and you're looking at it. It looks terrible. And so we want to give it a facelift. We had wanted to do it this year, but there's just too much going on, and the contractors are just swamped. And it's hard to get the contractors to interest. So we're planning it for next year. So basically we would redo the IFAS, or the drive-it there. We would paint all that structural steel, the railings, the concrete base, which is that green. We would power wash and repoint all the brickwork around the perimeter of the building. Also all the structural steel along Green Street. So basically give it a facelift like we did about 12 or 14 years ago to this building. We did something like that.
Has there been any discussion at all about structurally what it looks like? To me, it is not a welcoming library. I mean, you got basically barriers for people to go into it. And I think there's other issues with it. Maybe people like the design, I don't. So before we do all that work, I mean, I think there should be some discussion about structurally, why is it that way? I mean, to me, I realize you need a ramp and those kinds of things. Right. There's a lot of, in my opinion, wasted space along Green Street. There's a big overhang there, and it's set way back. A good 15 feet, maybe more than that. We don't have a bus station anywhere. So I'm just trying to think of, and I realize we don't want idling buses sitting in front of the library, which they are currently doing anyways. Right. It just seems to me there's a better solution for that space. And the other part of it too is, and we need to talk about this, what's the long-term plan for this? Because you need a roof on this too, right? Is this planned?
Yeah, that's in the plan, but not an immediate plan, but yes.
Right. Okay. I just want to share.
Yeah. I mean, I was here for the design construction. There was a large committee, a library construction committee. The legislators were in favor of the design. QPK did it. The legislature.
Not all legislators.
Well, a majority of them. And
how I knew
so
that.
I wasn't on that committee.
They did a charrette, and they basically, that avenue was really what many liked. Yeah, I mean, you make those changes. Those are significant changes structurally to do that. But yeah, this project would not, there was by no way that we would have the budget to do something like that. Okay. But it's something that, yeah, if there's interest in the legislature, we would then have to, we would have to delay these improvements in order to accomplish that.
Maybe that's 5 years from now.
Yeah, right.
If I could, just, I'll interject, Randy, and Arel, it's exactly right. There was an extensive committee, and this is what they voted for with the architects that did the project. I always thought, well, for one thing, the city wanted the entrance to be moved from the old Woolworth entrance, sort of in the middle of the building on Green Street, down to this corner. And so that's what they were working with that. And then the architects came up with this, what I always called a silo. And there was discussion about how it sort of corresponded to the old helix. Remember that in the Green Street ramp that you had to drive up to get to the Green Street parking lot?
Which was a nightmare.
Yeah.
My kids loved it. Go fast, Dad.
And I agree with everything you just said, Randy. It's not an inviting thing, and that ramp to get up in that unattractive steel barrier it's for safety is not good to look at. And there's no verticality to it. It's all squat.
Yeah.
I think buildings should have feeling of verticality. That's my opinion.
And the buses weren't parking there back when it was built. I mean, that all changed.
Right.
And actually, I was involved when TCAT, they were going to put a shelter, and they put it temporarily on our property, and it's still there. They had said it was going to be built in the apartment building just east of the library, and now they're on our property, and they don't maintain it. And we've removed over the years some of the benches under the kind of that overhang, because people were loitering there, for the bus, or they sit up, or they put their feet up against the sill further up in Borg Warner. That's all drive it, and they damage it. Yeah, so back then there wasn't as much traffic, and that's changed. So, it may be worth looking at, structurally if we want to modify it.
I see Katie's hand there.
Oh, I was just going to chime in since we're talking about the history of it. I remember the architect talking about how it was meant to mimic a wave and kind of the Cayuga Lake wave. So just since we're sharing the history of the
Connie
building.
Brace was the architect from QPK.
Yeah, QPK, that was it.
Yeah.
More like a breaking wave.
Then the other project, I said there were 2 elevators. This is the second one. It's Whole Health at Brown Road, elevator modernization. It's 37 years old. Actually, I was involved when it was initially built before coming to the county, the developer. So that's original elevator. When we renovated the building, we didn't do anything to it. It was sound. But now it's time to make those improvements to that elevator there.
Does Otis Elevator, or who's our contract with all the elevators? Do we have one contract?
Yeah, well, for kind of PM and testing, it's TKE, formerly known as Tyson Krupp, but we bid that out.
Okay.
And they actually got the bid for the previous modernization, but Otis also and Schindler submitted. Theirs was the best one. These are taking a little, there we go. These are related. It's a lift. It's a wheelchair lift, ADA requirement at our building, since we have a second floor for accessibility for the 2 departments that are up there, soil and water and weights and measures. It's been non-functional for 4 to 6 months now. And basically we have to replace it. They've looked at it and they said we have to replace the entire system. This is the big one. This is the Public Works Facility roof replacement for the vehicle garage. I don't know if he was here. And so that's where they basically park all of their trucks, plow trucks. Some of our vehicles are parked there. As you see, there are solar panels. Those are 50 kilowatt solar panels. And it's a 15-year lease, which is due to expire next year. And I don't know if Terry's still on here, but I'm pretty sure it is next year. So we've been waiting because if not, if we do the roof replacement beforehand, we have to pay to remove them and reinstall them. And that would be at a cost of probably $6,000 to $8,000 to do that. These are older technologies, so the agreement that we have with Solar Liberty is at the expiration of the lease, the county would have the option to have those removed at no cost to the county. We can buy them, which we would not do, or we can continue leasing them, which we would not. Both Terry and I recommend that we do not do that, just remove them. It's a problem because when you do have leaks, to trace it, especially on a roof like this is a ballasted roof, that's stone. All the roof replacements that we do are fully adhered membrane, but this basically they put the membrane and the ballast is what keeps it down. It puts more load on your roof, and then with the newer codes over several years ago, the snow loads are increased, so you're putting a lot more weight on the structure. And incidentally, the library that we were talking about when we put the solar panels there, we barely were able to make it because of the additional load. And as you may remember, Mike, it was Dooley Kiefer that suggested we look at that. We were about midway through renovations, and the reason that the panels at the library were installed flat is because when you do the incline here, which you get better solar gain on those, it was too much weight. The roof would not have been able to support it. They would have to tear down the new ceilings and do reinforcement. So anyway, it's additional weight.
And then they built high buildings all around it, which block the sun.
And then we basically got a credit. We got money from the city to basically to whatever we were losing in the solar panels. That money was used towards making additional energy improvements in the building. But yeah, that was the garage, and then the apartment went just east of us. You're right.
So those solar panels must be near the end of their life.
They're non-functional.
They're not functional at all, so
No.
they just need to be removed?
Yes, and so, but the cost to remove them, because we're trying to be environmentally friendly and recycle, is about $100,000. So we are looking at our other options, whether, we use our staff to separate, because the ones on the library, basically they're adhered. It's the thin solar panel like that is adhered to that blue board styrofoam insulation. So if we remove that and just palletize it and have that taken away, then the rest can be, the styrofoam can either be reused or recycled. But the companies that we approached, they were $80,000 to $100,000 to do that.
As I recall, the whole project was $500,000.
Our part, right?
Our part, and then there was NYSERDA was involved. Yeah, we had a real strong lobby asking us to do that.
Yeah, and at the time it was the largest solar installation on the Northeast.
That's right.
You said it's a 15-year lease now for the solar panels?
Yeah, but that lease expires next year. So we've been planning, and we have them at 7 buildings. We have either 25s or 50s.
And at that point, the company released from it, maybe it's their responsibility to dispose of them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. We don't own them. We're just leasing them.
So
when do you propose this roof needs to be replaced?
Next year. Okay. I think I mentioned at the capital presentation, this project has been in the books since 2020.
Okay.
So
that's a big roof.
Yeah.
So may I ask, what do you do to replace a ballasted roof like that? You have to
So you
scrape
basically
all the stone off and then tear all the stuff under it out?
Yeah. They remove all the stone on a chute that comes down off the roof. I mean, that can be used. So highway, could use that as fill or whatever. And so they would take it on their site so we wouldn't pay the trucking to haul it away somewhere else. Then they remove the membrane, the insulation. The new codes require more insulation, and so they'll have to build it up along the perimeter. There is asbestos around the perimeter, so we have to bait the paint first and then raise the kind of the sill around it. So it's pretty involved. That's why it's costly to do. But it's easier because it's big open roof. You don't have a lot, I mean, except for the rooftop units there. You don't have a lot of other structures there that they have to flash around. So it's, and actually when we Tetra Tech did the design for us, they used a drone to get all the measurements. It was more accurate than somebody measuring the roof. So it's kind of cool. So that's of all of the ones slated for next year, this is the largest one in cost. The next one also at Public Works is the visitor lot and the yard entry, so it's the asphalt. When we did the geothermal 2 years ago, the employee parking, that was dug up for the well field, so they put a brand new, parking asphalt pavement there. This was not part of the project, and so this is well overdue. You can see a lot of the cracking, especially the yard entry. So all of the highway trucks come through here. Even though this has a deeper base, over time it's starting to fail. And this is on the left is the visitor parking. And that's it on the big projects. So those are not all of the ones that based on just design life that we should be doing. So I'll bring up the spreadsheet that those projects then are put into what we propose to do in a certain year.
So these are the ones we can expect to see this coming year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, not with 700,000.
No.
So,
those are the
that's what we should be doing next year.
Most immediate concerns.
Yeah, so that's why.
Not maintenance, but facilities restoration.
Correct.
Yeah.
Lee, I think, of course, on Norma want to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're waiting for this list from Morel so that we can work to better leverage that $700,000 so that more of these projects can get done. So I just want to be clear that we just don't have it yet, so that we can work with finance to figure out how we might be able to bond or ban for these projects.
This is. So I have a spreadsheet that goes out 20 years, and I do it in 5-year increments. So this is 26 to 2030. So basically go through every building. You have main courthouse, so you've got carpet replacements, minor, you've got envelope improvements, mason repairs and such. Oops.
I have a question about the courthouse. So we own the courthouse, right? And so we're responsible for all exterior and interior work?
Yes.
Okay. And then they pay some form of lease amount?
Well, it's a maintenance in lieu of rent. And so actually we met yesterday with the unified court system to go over the proposed budget for their coming fiscal year, which is, well, it's April 1st through March 31st of next year. So they have a formula. And so currently they occupy 75% of the building space-wise. Any space that is court space, there's a higher reimbursement, but then common areas, there's a lower percentage. It's a formula. Any cleaning work that's done, we get reimbursed 100%. Maintenance, it's 25%. And so you take 75% of our costs, and then 25% of that they're paying for. So the benefit when they occupy the entire building, it's 100% that they're going to pay for it. Right now, personally, I feel they're not paying their share, but by law, that's the formula. And so, like the coming year, the proposed budget is $183,000. That includes about $11,000 in tenant work. Tenant work is 100% reimbursed, but everything else, there's a formula. So,
as well?
Excuse me?
Utilities as well?
Yes, utilities are included, but it's not the full utility rate. I mean, they're not paying for all of it. So, I mean, that'll be the nice part. When they occupy 100%, they'll have to pay for all the maintenance and operating costs for the building. So yes, and the only departments that are there now are county clerk and district attorney. They occupy 25% of the space. So for this, in that building, so we've got envelope improvements for next year, and then those exterior door replacements, that $250,000. And then you'll see over the next few years, the big one in 2027 is a roof replacement. And then the really big one that we put off so many years is the window replacements. Those windows were custom made overseas. The company's no longer in business. Those are huge windows, and they have really sophisticated hardware because those large windows can either rotate or you can tilt them. Because you can spin them around to open them up because you've got blinds in between to clean them. But much of that hardware, we've had to seal those windows shut because it could fall on you. So they're a safety hazard. And we're no longer able to get replacement parts for that. So you'd either have to fabricate them. A lot of the seals are going. But that was a project that was done before I ever came to the county. And I've been here 30
They were made in Germany, and the whole courthouse cost $100,000 at that time to have all the windows done.
Yeah.
And that was a huge controversy.
Yeah, was that like in the late 80s or early 90s?
That's before I was on the legislature. And Harris Dates, he was the chair of the legislature back then, Board of Reps, and he was a strong proponent for the new windows. I remember that.
Yeah. And being a historic building, you can't just put anything there. So you've got to go through a whole process to most times replace in kind what's there. But they're really great windows. That hardware, when it works, is great because you have this huge windows that weigh over 400 pounds, and you've got just these two hinges that it'll allow it to rotate, and then you turn a crank, and then you can just swing the entire window to your left or to your right.
The expense of all that is county expense.
Yes, although over the last few years, when we did the improvements to the space down in the basement office for the aging, moved out to Human Services Annex in 2014, they were able to contribute some towards those improvements. Not the percentage amount, but they were able to contribute. And also when the legislature moved out that same year, it moved in here, and they did the switch with the Supreme Court. They're able to contribute. So they do ask at the budget meeting we had yesterday. They asked if we had any capital projects in their building, and if so, it's not a guarantee that they can contribute, but they will if they have the funding, which they haven't had for a few years to do that.
So when we apply for grants, is that something that would go through administration or planning or through your facilities? How does those types of things work?
I think it should go through facilities since they are going to be overseeing the actual administration of the grant, that personally.
Okay, thanks.
The green, anything that's highlighted in green are projects that formerly were under the Green Facilities Capital Program, but since for now we don't have that, or at least funding to do that, anything that was HVAC related was always part of this, and so those are back in here. So when you see that green highlight, that's anything that's HVAC related, kind of an energy component, and so that would be for 2029, doing HVAC system upgrades for there's four or five rooftop units that were installed back in '97 that were not replaced back in 2006 when we did some HVAC improvements as part of our energy project. So that's the main courthouse, the old jail. For next year, we've got some electrical, electrical transformer distribution upgrades at $250,000 and some envelope improvements at 50, and then nothing until 2029. carpet replacements, and that would be part of the, so some of these may be covered under our renovation of the buildings. Others would not, because scope-wise, I know carpeting would, but then window replacements, it's not currently part of in the budget because it's a big ticket item, but I have it in there that we could cover that, and then the HVAC upgrades as well, and that's in the green. And then you go to this building. We've got the roof replacement, the standing seam roof replacement. So that 450 is not just the roof, but also the gutters, the downspouts, and all that ornamental trim that you see that basically wood shop would have to get the knives, to cut it that way. You can't just buy that stock. So what we're trying to find out is the last time it was done, if that woodworking shop is still in business, they may have the, to do this. We don't know that, but if not, it's going to cost more. But we figured that number in here to do that work. And then envelope improvements are those masonry repairs that I've mentioned, the cracking. When we did the facelift back in, I think it was 2012, 2014, we looked at all the cracking because we wanted to confirm that they weren't getting worse. So we put sensors on those cracks up in the attic, and they, through cellular phone, it would communicate if there was any movement. So we had them up there for 3 years. Even when we had that earthquake in, was it Montreal? Nothing moved here. So we knew that the cracks that we had, were not getting any worse. And we've sealed a lot of them up. And if you look closely around the building, you'll see where we sealed those before we coated the stucco facade. But there's a crack over here in that stairwell that we've looked at, and it looks newer than because you don't see the caulking there. So we want, when we do the roof assessment, we want the engineers to look at that as well. And if it's something we need to address, we will. And then, this is a sensitive screen. We've got the elevator modernization at the 120, and then we don't have anything till 2029, some HVAC upgrades. And some of these, I'll have to negotiate with Alt on the budget to see what we can accommodate as far as the improvements, because really right now, most of the improvements in this building are really interior kind of architectural space improvements, not really much on the mechanical side. So we've got 150 for HVAC system upgrades, and those are the units that serve this space are up in the attic, and those are 1975 vintage air handler. And same, the air handler in the basement are that old. We've replaced a lot of the internal components over the years, but it's time that we replace the entire system. And then we've got the window replacements. So when we were doing the facelift, like 2014, the windows exterior have lead. And that would have become a large abatement project, but also we, as you know, those would have to be custom made. It would be very expensive to do. So we'll explore, what we would do with those, either replace them, refinish them, repair them, or replace them. They're single pane, and you see a lot of the storm glazing that we have on the inside. And then we've got some electrical upgrades, and then carpet replacements. That would definitely be covered as part of the Center of Government project. And then recoat that exterior facade. And then you have the Whole Health Green Street generator replacement. That's original to when it was built in 93, is that there? And that generator only serves the elevator and life safety. It doesn't carry, and ITS, all their servers, switches, but it doesn't, run any floors or provide lighting or plug load for any of the floors. It's just for life safety in the elevator, so it's a fairly small generator. And then some masonry repairs, including some steel work repair, grinding and painting any rust on the structural steel in the entrance. The big one there is the window replacement. It was a project that we had slated 3 years ago, and we delayed it because of the cost, $1.9 million. Public safety building, all of those things that are listed there, most everything we did as part of the $4.5 million that we completed about a year ago. And then anything else is in the next 5 or 10 year blocks. So that's good. Then public library, we've got the exterior envelope that I indicated for next year, which is the I-fits, the steel work, all the concrete, the brick, awnings, replacing all of that, and then a resilient floor replacement, which is at Center Avenue as you come into the library. And then later years, some sidewalk improvements around the south and east side, automatic entrance door replacement, and then for the last 2 years, or 2030, carpet replacement and roof. That's the big one. So we don't have any leaks now, and we don't want to do anything, but those solar panels have made it hard for the roof to drain, to all the roof drains that kind of block that. But that's a big one. I mean, that's a 62,000 square foot roof. The highway is 26,005, so that's a big cost. The public works facility, we've got the 1.4 million for that vehicle roof, vehicle garage roof, carpet replacements, which haven't been done in 23 years, some VCT flooring, envelope, which is...
I have a question on the public works facility.
Yeah.
We toured that, and it's cool that we're storing all the vehicles inside. I'm sure it makes it a lot easier for maintaining them and cleaning them and all those kinds of things. Is that typical? Do most counties store all their equipment inside?
Yeah, according to that, I mean, those are better questions for the highway, but yes. And we only get like 3 spaces in there. I should have gotten a written agreement from Ward Hungerford. You remember him? Because when we did the addition and moved facilities there in 2002, we were supposed to get like 6, but it was never written down. And so now we're down to like just 3 spots. But we put our plows in there because, yes, when they go out plowing, they want it warm. They don't want ice, on their plows and such. But we're also supplying parking lots as well, not roads, but parking lots.
Now, is that area all geothermal as well?
But yeah, it's 100%. Yeah. So those
do concrete floors and the whole bit, or we just drill them out, or we just kind of...
All the geothermal wells were in the employee parking lot.
Right.
Initially, the scope was going to be 50% of the building. Terry and I said, what would it take to do 100% geothermal? And fortunately, by going 100%, then you could get some grants and tax credits, which you couldn't get if you only did 50%. And so those incentives help pay that additional, going the additional 50%. So the rooftop units, when we were looking at the vehicle garage roof replacement, there are some units in the back. Those are the heat pumps for the garages. So let's see what else. We've got we've got IFAS and masonry replacement work there, and the parking lot reconstruction, which is what I showed those pictures for the parking lots. And then for the following year is the roof replacement. So the addition that was built when we moved there in 2002, that roof has not been replaced. And it's in good shape. So that number is saying that's when we should replace it, but we're not having issues with it. So that's one that we could bump. But as far as, design and service life based on warranty, we usually don't replace it to the expiration of warranty. We usually wait 5 years or more. If we can push it, we keep deferring that. And then we've got a small one, fire alarm replacement in 2030. Human Services building, it would be next year that parking lot resurfacing that I showed in the first presentation, then envelope improvements, repointing, some masonry repairs. Next year, or 2027, would be a roof replacement. The warranty expired in 2018, and it was a 20-year. And then we've got window replacements and cooling tower replacement, shown in green because it would have fallen under our green facilities. And then in 2028, it's the HVAC system replacements. It's air handling units. There's 7 in the building. And basically, you have to dismantle them. They're huge. They're basically about the size of one of these offices here. And then, let's see. Solid waste office, not much there. We've got envelope. Let's see. Yeah, envelope replacements, repointing, 2027 HVAC upgrades, and in 28 we've got carpet replacement, and then roof replacement in 2029. It's a steel roof, pitched steel roof, so we've not had any leaks. It's just getting old. And then in 2030, window replacements.
So on solid waste, is that recycling and material management or solid waste?
That's the office.
Doesn't that come out of their enterprise funds? Don't they pay their own bills?
Not for that building, no. If we approach them to see if they can contribute, but no, most of these we've covered.
Okay. Well, they could if we required them to, right?
I think one of the things that is missing is the total cost for some of the things that we do, as was shown here, even with the library. We don't consider the work we do in the library as a cost to the library.
Correct.
And that's spread across many things that we do. So as we move forward, we're trying to identify full cost of some of the services that we provide. That's a cost allocation. So it is essential that even if the county is responsible for these costs, we actually put it in the budget of that enterprise fund so that we know what the county contribution to solid waste is. Full cost, full contribution. So yes, it should be. But it has not been that way for a long time. So we will try to fix that as we move forward.
Thank you.
So yeah, solid waste over the next 5 years, it's 300,000, so not a lot. Emergency Response Center next year, and that was on the green facilities. Those are projects, remember, we talked about we'd like to do, but there wasn't enough funding, and we were pushing for geothermal. This number represents just replacing what's there, the high-efficiency boilers, chiller. It was due for replacement last year. We replaced some compressors and such, and we've had failures on both. The boilers, we had a problem with the chiller, I think a leak just yesterday or day before. That's a 24/7 mission critical facility, so that's something that we're going to need to do. Unfortunately, Terry and I feel let's do the geothermal. That's a lot more money than that. This is just replacing what's there. And then 150 for roof replacements. That's the original roof. It's a shingled roof. That has 25 kilowatt solar panels on that roof. So those, we will do that after they're removed. And we would replace the roof. We've had, because of the high wind over the last few years, we've had a lot of shingles fly off of that. We've had to repair. And then 2028 would be flooring replacements, which we haven't done since it was built. And then you go to the Human Services Annex. It's a roof replacement. When we purchased the building and renovated it, we didn't do anything with the roof. It wasn't that old. It was like 8 years old. We've not had really significant leaks. That's just design life replacement. And so that building, depending on whether the county decides to keep it or not, we may or may not do that. And then we've got carpet replacements in 2029, a total of 290 over 5 years. Whole Health Brown Road, we've got 80,000 for the modernization elevator next year, then 330 for the parking lot resurfacing in 2027. And then that leased property is putting in a fire alarm system at DMV. It doesn't require it by code, but we think it's a good idea to have it there. And it would be a fairly simple installation. It's one large, big open area, so it'd be easy to install. And so as you look across the totals at the bottom, you've got 4.5 million, 5.2 million, 1.9, 1.9, 3, 16,750,000. So that's why I said the 700,000 is not going to put a dent in this. And then what I've been doing over the years is just pushing things back. Livin and I know that you can only do that for so long, and then you're going to have failures, and then we're actually paying more. If you've got to rush and replace something quickly, you're getting, you're paying a premium for that. So it's always better to plan for a lot of these replacements. I know this isn't great news, but this is
what it is.
Reality. And then at the bottom, I kind of break it up by different categories. So if you look at the categories, really the big numbers are in the roofing and, some site work, your windows, but I break it up in categories. I have another section where I break it up based on if it's code or safety, if it's, affects deterioration of buildings, if it's more aesthetics. And so anything that is aesthetics, like carpeting and things, is always the lowest priority. Or what tends to happen is they become a safety issue where they're unraveling and they become tripping hazards, and that's when we start replacing them. But you may see in some of our buildings where we know we're going to renovate it, like Old Jail, you see a lot of duct tape on the carpet to hold it together because we're trying to just, help wait until we actually do renovation.
How long is our lease in the DMV facility? How long does that go on?
That is due by the end of, I believe, April next year. Yeah. We are having conversation with Mo about some change in plans, if possible, and also enhancing the services. So we haven't got anything concrete yet, but I anticipate that latest by November, we should have direction or a request of which direction we want to go in with the DMV.
Thank you.
I appreciate the report, Earl. This is pretty comprehensive, as we're used to with you, which is good. It's
so I'll share that. I'll send it over to Jordan so she can share both the presentation, this spreadsheet with all of you.
I think it'd be good to share this with the rest of the legislature because to get a scope of what the county facilities are and so on. And it reminds me of my own real estate, windows and roofs, and that's kind of
the envelope, right?
The stress that's there all the time. Funny part here is I can remember going to all the groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings with you on these places, and you don't stop to think even from the emergency response center. It's been 21 years.
I know.
And I'm surprised we haven't had to replace those boilers with the amount of use and the increase in the computerization and all the different changing components there. So it's well worth the trip down memory lane here and seeing the and that's just a 5-year plan that we're talking. 16 million.
But a lot of it is in these 5 years. As you go in the out years, I mean, part of it is it's hard to forecast numbers. I mean, costs, they're present day numbers, but this is really deferred maintenance. So it's starting to, we've pushed it off so long that now we have to address it. If not, you're going to push it, but then you are going to have failures in a lot of these, a lot of these systems. Roofs are the ones that concern me the most.
Two questions, just more on the expense side. With the expiring leases on the solar panels and so on, is that going to put a dent into the revenues anywheres?
I don't know if Terry's still on there. I mean, both he and I, agree that it's the best thing to do. It's older technology. I mean, our approach is we can either just, purchase or lease from solar fields than on the roof. I think the roof was a somewhat okay idea for me. What I didn't like is that when we have leaks, they're hard to find. And if you've got to do a roof replacement, I mean, back it was 15 years. We have done roofs since then, and we've had to pay the cost to remove them, then reinstall them. And then now, I mean, in the early years, we were able to monitor how much it was generating. Now, I mean, Terry can address this better. It's hard to really monitor how much it's generating because we don't have that portal that we used to have. So I think we're better off removing them and either doing ground mounted or leasing, solar farms. But
yeah, I would agree with that, Earl. I think the issue that we're finding, I think, increasingly with these solar panels is that when they were first being installed, the ones that were installed on the library and the leases that we did, the general thought process was that the useful life of a solar array was going to be 20-ish years, which aligned fairly well if you put a new roof on a building. The timelines were somewhat aligned where you wouldn't have to do a roof replacement part way. I think with the advances in solar technology, these solar panels are going to last 30, 35, 40 years and have useful production. And there's not a lot of roofs that are going to last 40 years. So you're going to have to do some sort of roof replacement in the course of it where you're going to have to remove all the panels, put the new roof on, put all the panels back on, and it's just an added expense. And so I think, in addition to the maintenance issues that Arel is talking about, I think that's something that we really consider when we're thinking, even with the center of government, would you put panels on that building? Well, then you're going to have to deal with that issue at some point. So a little bit easier when you're doing solar canopies like we've, scoped out at a couple of our pay leases, or, putting it in a field somewhere, buying from a solar farm, having a power purchase agreement. I think that makes it all a little bit easier for the county.
Thanks, Jerry. Good points. And one other question. Lots of windows. You see efficiencies coming, energy, bill-wise?
Oh, yeah, code-wise, the newer windows have to be more efficient. And you look at the entire envelope, so there are trade-offs, but if it's just a straight window and you're not doing any new construction on the walls, then you've got to meet the code. Where if it's a new building, they look at the entire envelope, so the roof insulation, the wall, so you may either be able to reduce on the windows, beef it up on the walls, but if it's just straight windows, you're not touching it else, you've got to go to those higher efficiency windows.
Well, just looking at single pane glass windows here, it certainly would probably make you some.
I mean, the loss here in this building is high. This is a large space too. So, I mean, there is a benefit. It doesn't pay for itself, unfortunately.
That's what I was looking for.
No, yeah.
Mike.
Arel, this was a great presentation. I'm sorry you had to work so late last night on it. We want you to think about your health too, But I think this underscores the fact that flat roofs are pretty expensive. They're maybe less expensive when they're built in these buildings, but modern buildings all seem to tend to have these flat roofs on. That wasn't the way they were built in times past. They were sloped roofs of some kind, just like on this building. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the sloped roofs in our climate last better because they shed the snow, for example, and the water faster. And so we're going to build another one here with the Center of Government building, and it's going to have another flat roof on. At least that's what the architects are proposing. And I wonder if we should think about that. I mean, do we have to put the HVAC on the roof? We're going to have a geothermal facility, processing units and things. I mean, do we have to do that? Do we have to have a flat roof? Just something to think about.
Right. Well, I do not like rooftop units or equipment. I mean, they don't get maintained as well as those that are interior, but then when you bring them inside, then you're taking space, from the programs. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why you have flat roofs, because then you can put equipment, you can access it, it's safe if you're having to walk on a roof. But we push as much as we can to bring mechanical equipment inside because it's going to be better maintained. But there's a trade-off because then it's taking up some of the program space there.
What about if you put it in a basement?
If you have a basement, correct, yeah. And on the Center of Government project, we're going to have an alternate that shows what the cost of a basement would be as well. So at least you'll know.
I've got a few questions. So in these, all these expenses for the various things, is there also, and thanks for working on the spreadsheet, and sorry about your mother-in-law.
Thank you.
The lifetime expectancy of each one of these things?
Yes.
Is listed for you guys to look at. And the, also are there any of these projects that, now that we're going to be talking shortly with Terry about the project up at Whole Health up there, are there any of these projects that could be paid for by these funds we're not sure what we're doing with? And you can answer that question later, Terry. But also of these projects for these buildings around here that we're going to be reusing, could you detail administration when you get to that point of the $50 million we're planning to spend, how much of that is allocated to each one of these buildings? The various things. And you don't do that right now, but when you, because you do have a lot of analysis to do and you got to bring all this together. And so when you share all that stuff with us, if you could just point out that we've allocated 200,000 to this building for this and 300,000 for that, or just so that we can see the whole picture.
It's probably a good segue. Norma, did you have a little more you wanted to?
I'm going to do that very brief because we do still, we didn't get through our county administration report. So I will go ahead and just share real quickly so that you all can see. I really appreciate that presentation from Arel because we really can't do a good job planning without having that data. And this will be great to have that data so that we can actually plan out. I have a 50-year spreadsheet that we're tracking all of the expenditures, so I can actually lay this out if I know exactly how much these things will cost, not just a 5-year capital improvement project. But right now, based on the information that we know today, this is kind of what what I've done here is I've created a chart that includes what our potential liabilities might be, right? So this includes things like the appropriated fund balance, bonds. Bonds would be anything that the tax levy would cover. Where you see interfund A, that's also tax levy. I included the PFC passenger charges just because of, kind of the volatility there. And sale of equipment, which is an unknown, although I think the folks do a really good job with that, and then use of reserves. So as you can see, kind of across this, our total costs are increasing, and you see the big bump in 2029, and that's due to the center of government adding that into that equation. The other item that I've got myself stuck in with a pencil. There we go. The other sheet that I created for you, and this is all public, by the way, so you can get access to this. The other sheet I did was I created just a tax levy. These are the things that will be on our tax levy over the next 5 years. And you can see where right now we're at $7.6 million in tax levy. Let me put the center of government back in here because it looks a lot better without that. Let's see. There we go. So that includes the center of government. So all I did was level set, kind of put the 7.6 so you could see that trend line across. So as things are growing, and again, going back to the conversation we were just having about facilities infrastructure, this could go up and down depending on what our actual expenditures will be, what we need to bond for, what we can bond for, and how that will be laid out in the future. But you can see as we go through, the things that on this chart that we have to pay for are generally start with a year, 2012 through 2023. Those are things we've already bonded for. We are liable to pay for those those have we have no ability to make adjustments. And then as you go down the line, we've got some of our bridge replacement projects that are still, that are actually allocated or required by the county to pay. And then we have some reserve, we're funding some debt reserve and so on. So if you happen to go in and decide to use this chart, by just kind of taking out, I'm going to go ahead and click on the center of government, by taking out certain projects, it gives you an idea of how that levels off throughout the next 5 years. So I just want to give you kind of a quick picture of what that looks like. Does anybody have questions about that?
I'm going to ask our budget committee chairman, is this something you had anticipated rolling into the expanded budget committee discussions?
Well, we certainly can if the legislators want to have it. I don't think we had it on a plan to do that.
No, I mean, it's...
Normally we talk about capital projects, and so that might be added when that discussion happens. Yes.
No, it really illustrates kind of the forward-moving trend there quite well.
Absolutely. And just to add...
And it's colorful.
And just to add, this shows more of like if the county is paying for everything as is. So if we're able to raise some grant from some places or some project that may cost a amount, if we amortize it and borrow against it, that will also change the liability on the specific years and stuff like that. So this is not static, it's a moving target. It requires a lot of planning internally to see how we place things at what places.
What it does not assume are new road projects, new bridge projects. Those things are not included in this. So if it's a 100% locally funded project, that will affect this. And you see, I just stretched this out to 2040, and you can see kind of how those lines, 2029 hits us pretty hard. And then we start paying off some of our debt that we currently have on the books, but then of course we're going to be adding other debt.
Remind me, the roads and bridges, we're putting, was it 1.4 into 2.4 into the capital every year. And then we've been fortunate to get some Bridge New York and other types of grants that have done a substantial part, but again, dependent on the federal government and the state government continuing to maintain these programs.
Our yearly increase in the levy for capital, what, 25% or 0.25 or 1/4%, I guess I should say. Is that somehow factored in that we might not have to actually bond for as much?
Those are that's part of what course is getting to. So as we get a little bit, and I wanted to point out Victoria Kendall, our budget analyst, new budget analyst that's been hired, she's going to be actually championing our capital program working with the finance office and helping us to really dive into our current capital projects, helping us to close some of those out. So to Corsa's point, as we get a little bit tighter on our capital program, I think we're going to find that some of these trends we might see a little bit of relief. But again, it's all going to depend on what the legislature decides to add to the capital program as we move forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Randy's got his hand up.
Yeah, thank Norbert for all the work on this. A lot of clarity here, and I think it's good to see where this, where we're headed with this. And I think it really does provide a lot of planning material for us. I know it's a lot of work, and I think the visibility is and transparency is great. So thank you.
You're welcome.
You've given us a lot to study here, so that's great. Thanks, Rel, Terry, Libin, good to meet you, Katie. Did I cut you off earlier or on your county administrator report?
Not necessarily. We are on call for, I think this is very critical that you understand some of the choices we make, and also for the public to also understand some of the decision pointers that we take our time on the proposals and actions that we take on a daily basis to make sure we are making informed choices throughout all the projects and all the options that we select. And we are also being very deliberate on where we propose spending money on. So it's very critical that people understand the decision that we are saddled with all the time. I think one item that we did not cover is, I believe all of you have the letter in front of you from Terry. So I will invite Terry to take us through what the document is and some of the key decision areas that we need to take. And also, I believe at the back of the paper you have on options that we are presenting and seeking your direction on how to proceed. One thing I just want to, before I invite Terry in, to clarify to you is, this is one of the reasons why the government should not lease properties, because we need to have control. Leasing properties remove control from the county. And sometimes we have to make decisions, or we are restricted in our decision-making process because we don't have control over specific assets. So it is essential that leasing becomes an absolute last option when we're choosing what decision points we need to make around properties or assets and things like that. So I'll invite Terry in to just take us through what this document is and where we need to go.
Yeah, so the background context for this is we received $825,000 from the state government through our work in the Clean Energy Communities Project to be utilized to fund a clean energy project. So something that would dramatically reduce greenhouse gas emissions relative to the amount of the grant. In talking with administration, with Arel, looking at our green facilities program, we found a project that was then approved by the legislature for us to utilize these funds for, and that was a canopy solar array over part of our parking structure at 55 Brown Road, which is the Whole Health building. In the process of going through the development, we understood from our consultant, Johnson Controls, that we were going to need Cornell to sign off on a utility easement to facilitate the interconnection. When we reached out to Cornell, they made us aware of the terms of the ground lease that states that not only do they need approval, they need to approve the project, and it has to go through their approvals process and meet their certain design criteria, but it would also require us to get a letter from the Village of Lansing, which is the municipality where this facility is located, signing off on the project, essentially saying that it met all zoning requirements and required no variances. In the Village of Lansing, they have a solar law. It is permissible to do what this is considered in their zoning a tier 2 solar array. It's allowed in all zoning areas that they have, subject to the requirements of that particular zone. And in this particular area, there's a height restriction for accessory buildings, which this is considered of 15 feet. And so we would need a variance since the solar canopy goes up to about 19 feet, 5 inches, and then descends to 15 feet, 1 inch. So it's at all points above that 15-foot height restriction. So we are kind of in a scenario where we are needing approval from Cornell on the solar array itself. And so we've supplied them the design documents, and it seems somewhat positive that we're going to be able to get that approval from Cornell without hopefully too much headache. I will say this is going to be the first solar canopy in the tech park outside of, the one that we have at our own airport, which isn't subject to that rule. And so in their mind, this sort of sets a precedence. And so I think they're putting a good eye on this to make sure that it's going to meet a standard that if anyone after us wants to do something similar, that they can point to it and say, do what the county did. So they don't want us to be kind of the exception. They want us to set the precedent. So we're going through the approval process with Cornell, and then we have been in discussions with the Village of Lansing, seeing if they would submit a letter to Cornell on our behalf, basically stating that they were fine with the project. In those conversations, they've stated their intention that we go through their planning process. And so that would include us applying for a special use permit, requiring us to get the inspections, the building permit. We would have to go to their zoning board of appeals in order to get the variance to meet the height restrictions. Fine, that's something we could potentially do. On top of all of this is, the solar project itself, is about $1.4 million. I think a little bit more than that. It's come a little bit higher in cost than when we originally scoped this out with Johnson Controls. The grant's for $825,000. If we can get to construction this year, there's still a very good chance that we can receive 30 to 40% of the cost of the solar array back in that elective pay program that got us funding originally for that geothermal system at Public Works. So there is still the potential that we could get that funding if we start construction this year. If we're not able to get through the approvals process, either the Cornell side or the Village of Lansing side, we would be in a scenario where we start construction, in early 2026. There would be additional hurdles that we could try and clear. It'd be difficult. It would add a measure of risk to this. There's no guarantee at that point that we could necessarily do it. I would say if construction went beyond July 2026, I wouldn't even consider going after it. It would become an even bigger headache. And this is thanks to the big, beautiful bill that was passed by Congress that made some changes to the timelines for solar tax credits in particular. It preserved the credits on the battery and the geothermal side. It really changed it for solar and wind, and that's what we're dealing with right now. So it's somewhat critical that we start construction this year if we're going to move forward on this project. And that kind of takes us to the three options that I presented at the end of the memo. We could decide to do a Monroe balancing test, and we've talked a little bit with Maury and Holly about this, and they believe that this is something that they could put through. And so if we were to do that, it would go to probably we would ask Lee for you to member file it in order to speed up the timelines to get onto the agenda sometime in early mid-October before the next F&I meeting. We would then, if the Monroe balancing test passed, we passed the test, we can then self-permit, do all of our own self-regulation. We would then ask the Village of Lansing to sign off on a letter acknowledging that they accept the results of the Monroe balancing test. And then we would take that to Cornell. Cornell has said that if we got that letter, that the village acknowledged that they're okay with us doing the Monroe balancing test, the only thing that they would require in addition to that letter is a decommissioning agreement and a bond or escrow saying that when we vacated the premise, if we transferred the lease, if we decided not to renew the lease, which I think is due in 2048 or 2058, somewhere around there, that we would take out the system and it wouldn't stay there. And the reason that's a requirement for them is if we transfer the property to somebody else, they then have to clear the variance, and they would have to go to the Village of Lansing and have to get the panels approved, and they don't want to deal with that potential obstacle for either a third party or for themselves if they were to assume control of the building. The second option is for us to go through the Village of Lansing process. Cost a little bit more money, not a substantial amount, I think $5,000 or $6,000. We could potentially clear it before the end of the year. The risk factor there is, you're going to two different boards, the planning board and the zoning board of appeals, with individuals you don't know how they're going to deal with it. It's, I think, a fairly innocuous property, especially being on the county property, being shielded from the road. No one's ever going to see it. It's not near residences, but it's also the first solar canopy in the Village of Lansing. So, you don't know, and that's the potential risk there. And then the third option would be for us to say, this is too complicated. We don't want to deal with this anymore. Let's decide to not go forward with that solar canopy at Whole Health. Let's take that $825,000 and find somewhere new to spend it. Now, we would still be subject to some guidelines. We still have to meet the original criteria of the grant that requires us to significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So that somewhat limits us. Randy, to your question, what of REL's projects could this fund? So things like elevators, windows, door replacements, roof replacements, we couldn't fund any of that, unfortunately. We'd really be targeting some of the HVAC stuff, and then it wouldn't be boiler replacements. It would be looking to do air source heat pumps, VRF systems, geothermal systems, and so there would be a measure of cost there as well. So we'd have to explore kind of what would it be a viable approach to then use that money? Would it actually save us money, or would it end up costing us a little bit of money versus just, doing what our original plan was? So, and to make it even more complicated, since we have already gotten this project approved by NYSERDA, they would want us to, if we're going to switch projects, to tell them what that project is and seek approval from them by October 2025, so the end of this October. And then the project itself would have to be completed by November 30th, 2027. So when we were thinking about it, and before we had that news from NYSERDA, we were like, oh, well, let's just maybe shift these funds towards something with the center of government. That completion date makes that really difficult to countenance. So what we're looking for is guidance from all of you to kind of point us in the direction that you think would make sense for us to look at, whether we should be going forward with that Monroe balancing test, going through the village's approval process, or should we be, quickly searching and trying to come up with a new project to appeal to NYSERDA for.
What's your sense with the village of Lansing?
Yeah, I mean, I know their mayor. I've talked with their code enforcement officer. They want to work with us on this, but they also would like to see the county go through the approvals process. I don't think any municipality likes it when we just do our own thing and don't give them a chance to provide feedback or to go through their process. So, I like to think that it would be possible to get through on the timeline that we want, but I've also worked a lot with municipalities, and it only takes, one or two people on a zoning board or a planning board to really throw a monkey in the works. And not to say that it would kill the project, but if they want us to come back with new assessments, visual assessments, and other things, these are things that myself, Pharrell, Libin, we don't generate. We are then working through Johnson Controls, and they're taking it to their subcontractor, Solar Liberty, and so all of these things take a lot of time, unfortunately.
Kind of like placing 9 radio towers. Mike?
Yeah, Terry, I for one am very, very reluctant to have any process where we have to go through the village of Lansing. We are a larger municipality, and I understand you've talked to the county attorney about the balancing test. I question, why do we have to do the balancing test at all? Why can't we just do this project? It's on the property we have leased. Is it because we have a subcontractor to do this? Or why can't we, if we just wanted to put up a radio tower, for example?
I see, course.
Couldn't we do that?
We don't own the land, we're leasing the land, so we would need approval from Cornell, and also based on the lease agreement, that is a set policy that we agreed to when we took the lease out, so we cannot do that.
All right, then option 4 is to do eminent domain and take over the property, which we've talked about before.
Possible.
Let me ask another question. With option number 3, looking at Dewar, we set aside or earmarked $250,000 into the capital program, possible use of contingency funds. Is that still there, or have you looked toward moving that in the budget process?
It is still encumbered in the contingent fund to date. $250,000 won't get us very far with the geothermal, but yeah.
Would that be enough, though, Terry, to make up the difference that you might be looking at on a larger project?
So when we originally costed the geothermal project, it was like, I want to say around $3.4 million, maybe $4 million altogether. We'd obviously have to get some new costs from Johnson Controls, and as you know, not.
Okay, $3 or $4 million.
Cost, Terry.
That's probably not going to work with 400 and 250. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Randy has his hand up, but I'd like to speak again.
Yeah, on the balancing test, the village of Lansing could still say no, right? like I said, they're not going to accept the Monroe balancing test, right?
That's right.
So they're going to, no matter what they do, we're really bound by them because Cornell is saying they want that letter, right?
No.
Village of Lansing.
That's my understanding, is Cornell would require a letter from the Village of Lansing saying, yes, we accept the Monroe balancing test that the county did, and, therefore the variance doesn't apply, or something to that effect.
Wasn't there an or, though? Or the county has to be responsible to, if they don't accept it, the county, after the Monroe balancing test, we would have to remove or take the responsibility.
I think it's an and.
It's an and.
They need the letter, and they also need us to insert a clause into the ground lease that we would be responsible for removing them and bonding for them for their removal.
Do we have a ground lease for the airport as well, or do we own the airport land? Do we own the airport land, or is that a ground lease as well with the Cornell?
We own it.
No,
We own it, but because of the funding from the FAA, anything we do that's a non-aviation purpose is subject to approvals and potential paybacks to the federal government. We went through that when we built the 911 center. So yeah, we own it, but it's encumbered in some manners for uses and what we do with it.
Well, the reason I'm asking is if we own the land, could we do the solar array there?
If it had an airport purpose, possibly.
So I'm just trying to think of how we can get around this.
Well,
and maybe there's some advantages as well for the airport in some way. And I know, do we have a solar canopy there now at the airport?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I see people park underneath it or maybe use it for charging or something like that. And maybe that's an opportunity for us to enhance the airport. I'm just trying to think of a way around it. I'm sorry.
It's an interesting idea. I think what we'd have to quickly do is we'd have to quickly come with a design. The only difficulty with doing something that close to the airport is you have to do glint assessments and have to work with the FAA to make sure that you're not going to have any interference with the tower operations and the runway operations. Now, since we've already gone through that once, and I wasn't here for that process when the original solar array went in at the airport, I don't know what that'll constitute. And it would also be a question of whether we could get a design and an interconnection path quick enough to try and get that deadline of this year, starting construction this year. The timeline is what really crushes us on this project, unfortunately.
Would NYSERDA entertain an extension in any way?
Well, so it's not really an issue with the NYSERDA grant. I guess it's more of an issue if we're trying to get some of the federal tax credits back. I mean, the other option would be to say, okay, we're not going to count on the federal tax credits and we'll just reduce the scope of the project such that it only will cost $825,000. And so that would be a significant reduction in probably the size of the system, but it's, I guess that is something that we could do as well and say, look, tax credits would be nice, but we can't count on them. So we'll just cost the system out $825,000. It'll reduce the size. So be it.
Thank you. You had my question.
Mike?
Yeah, I like your idea, Randy. And I think the airport wanted more of these canopies. And I don't know, it may already be designed in the CNS plan for the airport extension when they did the update. I think it'd be worth talking with CNS about it. I'm so opposed to getting into anything where we have to go into planning with the Village of Lansing. I remember very well what happened when we tried to get a new operator for the old restaurant at the airport. And the Village of Lansing just gave us so much trouble about that. I don't know if that was before or after the Rochester case about the Monroe balancing test or not, but I think it might have been before that. We had quite a time with them, and they just took the position that because it was a a restaurant. It wasn't a public purpose. And yet we needed to have a restaurant up there for passengers and other people at the airport. So that's a long time ago, I know, but the Village of Lansing was formed as a zoning district to try to keep out the mall back in the 1970s. And they still are very, very possessive about their zoning up there. So these things could blow up real fast. So if there's a way around this, I'd like to see us do it. Or if there's another project, I'd like to see us do it.
So the exposure, Terry, here is loss of the $439,000 in clean energy tax credits. The $825,000 from the Clean Energy Communities Program, is that applicable to an alternate project?
Yeah, as long as we could meet their criteria for an alternate project, they would be amenable to it. It's just they would really like us to submit a change if we're going to make a change by the end of October, and they would still want it completed by the end of November 2027.
In local dollars mixed in here through the capital program? Was there a portion that we were looking to spend in addition to the 825, 439?
So there would be a minimal spend. There would be some spend now from the Green Capital Project because of the increased costs that Johnson Controls cited. I mean, I think when we originally penciled out this project a year and a half ago, it was $1,100, right? And so we're now at $1,400. And some of that's cost increases, and some of that is just when you get to the detailed engineering, there's some changes from what you thought the interconnection was going to be. It necessitates change. But yeah,
it looked like
all the tariffs and everything going on, it's raised the cost.
But it looked like we were going to use $168,000 from the Green Facilities Capital Program to fill in the gap.
Yeah, I think the original hope was we were going to spend the $825,000, and then the difference was going to be covered by whatever we were able to get in the tax credits. At this point, it's still the hope that would make up a large amount of the difference, but there would still be some on the back end that would have to be absorbed by the capital fund.
So what I'm hearing
I have a last. So energy efficient windows don't fit into this criteria?
No, they're looking for a certain, level of payback, both I think monetarily, but also in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. And, with windows, you're looking at, even if you get a 50% more efficient window, the best window makes a bad wall. So it's just not, it's not enough. Yeah,
it's like 3% or something. I was reading an article about solar panels and how the efficiency is tripled in the last 12 years, something like that. So it's really interesting discussion on that. I want to thank you Terry, for this memo.
Yes.
It really helps me a lot when I get these things and I can read them in advance. So thank you very much. And it was very complete, and it helps me a lot. And plus I have something to go back and look at later. So thank you.
Yeah. So Terry, you still want some guidance from us.
Enough for admin to tell me what to do.
Mike and Randy can tell me what you think. We want to see if consent by the Village of Lansing is possible in the immediate future, and if not, potentially
without going through their variance programs and all of that.
And if there's a way to look toward another project that the funds could be applied to within the time constraints that we've got, but that doesn't look real promising, other than maybe a redirection of the clean energy program money. Am I garbling this up on you, Terry?
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is we'll do some due diligence. We'll talk to Johnson Controls and see how feasible it would be to look at potentially the solar arrays at the airport, and what a timeline might look like for that. They might just say right away, yeah, we can't get this done on the right timeline. And then I can talk with Norman administration about costing out what this would look like to do the Dewar geothermal project. And then to me, it would then come down to whether, it's that project or if something else comes out of the woodwork that we explore, or probably doing the Monroe balancing test. I don't think that the village is going to say, hey, okay, fine, do whatever you want. I think they're going to want us to either do the test or go through their process. I will say I have offered, and I think I am going at the beginning of October to their village board, if we're still proceeding with the solar project, to at least outline it, show them the pictures, let them know what it is, so that their village board is aware of it. And maybe based on that meeting, they'll acquiesce, but I just don't know.
Hi, Katie.
I would just add that I don't think it's possible to get a read on how the village might proceed with this. They have, boards like the legislature that they all have to weigh in and vote. So it's not like the mayor could tell us what direction they might go with approving a letter regarding the Monroe balancing test or any of the permitting. So I don't think we'll be able to give you an answer to that question.
So Roxanne's listening in. I sent her a message so she could hear what was happening. So she's aware of what the discussion has been. And we have to talk further, Terry and Finance, to see, because much of the Green Facilities project was bonded, and the bonds have more restrictions because they have to be directly related to certain projects. So whether or not there's additional funding, I don't know.
Okay. Well, given all of this, we'll allow you to move ahead, and I don't have a problem bringing a member-filed resolution with the committee, having knowledge that this conversation's taken place, if that's a need in October. But thank you. Sorry about all of the complications for you, Terry. You seem to run into those a little bit.
Yeah.
And the other thing is thinking about the ERC. I mean, if you are talking a $3 or $4 million project, I see two things there. One is just what RL needs to get thrown in, and two is into the middle of the building projects. But the other is, that's going to impact what your bonding looks like over the next 2 or 3 years, because clearly that's where you're going to have to go with it, even with a sizable contribution. 3 or 4 million is a lot to throw into the mix at this point, even with $1 million to put toward it.
I think, isn't it $300,000 to update the current system there?
Yeah.
Right, so it's a big difference.
Katie.
I'd just like to say happy birthday to Terry.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Heck of a present for you, Terry.
Mine's tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday.
Birthday tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, we should have brought a cake if we didn't know that ahead.
You don't want us to sing.
Thanks all for the conversation. Anything further from county administration?
I think that's it. We're preparing to go to TCAT for their budget presentation as well. So, yes.
Just one thing, we have conducted interviews for the highway director. There's not been a selection, of course, but we are in the process of going out and checking references. So we'll keep everybody posted on that.
Rel.
I could report on Code Blue Cherry Street if there's any interest.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. A lot has been going on. I've been there almost every day last week. This week also we've been there. We've been able to reach an agreement with the current tenant. Found that they're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, which is great for us. And she is open to, and we've been going there on Mondays and Tuesdays to do research and planning, but also to do the improvements for the Code Blue, which gives us basically 14 days between now and the end of October. Even we can do it during the week before 10. They open at 10. Those 3 hours are a lot of time for us to get in there and do work. They are supposed to vacate 31st of October. They'd like to be open to the public the 1st and 2nd. I don't have any opposition to that because we're not going to be working on a weekend.
October or September?
I'm the end of October, so it's October 31st, but they'd asked if they could be open to the public November 1st and 2nd, that Saturday and Sunday. I'm not opposed to that. I've suggested that to administration because she's been working with us. She doesn't need to allow us to be working there on Mondays and Tuesdays. She's been very, very accommodating. And we already have a plan moving forward, which involves our staff, contractors, and engineers on what we have to do. We've been able to get total of 3 heating units working, 2 that she didn't even know about in an attic space. And so it's looking a little better. I think the scope-wise, as far as time, it's more really preparing the bathrooms. We're replacing all the plumbing fixtures and repairing some of those. They only have a few sinks and toilets operational. We can get all those repaired and put in showers. So that like putting in showers are things that we'll have to do after they vacate. We can do the fire alarm system installation. We've already removed the fire alarm from KeyBank, have all the panels and all the devices, and working with Matco Electric and the owner to do that these Mondays and Tuesdays and even early in the morning to run all the cabling and install devices. So I think we're still set for meeting the goal of November 21st to be open for Code Blue season.
That's great.
Thanks for the update, Earl. That's good to hear. Good positive news. And appreciate the work you've done with the legislature to try to meet that need. Randy, you reported at the full legislature meeting on downtown facilities the other day. Do we need to add anything more today?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good.
Is there any other committee reports?
Could I just make a silly comment here?
Sure.
But it was interesting, we had someone talk about the Masonic building in Ithaca, which I certainly wouldn't think we would want to do anything with, but historically, that's, I think, the only Egyptian revival architectural design building in the whole area. It was in the 20s, Egypt was a big thing, and the King Tut's tomb and all of that, and there was a lot of, even in architecture, there was Egyptian revival going on.
It's a shame it's been empty for 20 years or whatever it is.
Yeah, it is.
I own the Masonic building in Groton, but it's just an old wood frame structure with very little architectural appeal. And it needs new windows. Anyways, thanks everybody, and appreciate staff reports today. It's been very informative. Good luck with the TCAT budget review.
Yeah, it will be fun.
Thanks, Corsa.